Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Welcome to a deep dive into a book that's pretty different, let's say, from your typical business manual.
Yeah.
It's Robert Townsend's Up the Organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you actually sent over your digital copy.
Oh, wow.
And honestly,
Yeah.
it's been dog-eared on my shelf for years.
I bet.
It was originally published back in 1970
Okay.
and updated in 1980.
Wow. So it's stood the test of time.
It's still
Yep.
surprisingly relevant.
Yeah. What I thought was so interesting about it is that it's not your typical dry academic text.
Yeah.
It's structured as a series of short essays that are arranged alphabetically,
Right.
kind of like a management encyclopedia,
Yeah.
covering everything from hiring to firing and even, mistresses.
Well, some of the chapter titles alone are enough to make you do a double take, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Disobedience and its necessity.
Mm.
Ejaculation, premature.
Yeah.
Definitely not what I expected when I first picked it up. But Townsend's style is what makes it so engaging. He's witty. He's irreverent.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shy away from tackling,
It is very frank.
controversial topics head on.
Yeah. And that's such a reflection of his personality and his experience. Townsend wasn't an ivory tower academic.
Right.
He was the guy who led Avis Rent-A-Car during a period of incredible turnaround in the 60s. He took them from like the brink of bankruptcy to a highly profitable, respected brand. And that gave him a very unique perspective on what works and what doesn't.
In the business world.
Yeah, in the business world.
So he's basically writing from the trenches.
Exactly,
Thank
not
you.
some theoretical textbook.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really comes through is his strong critique of traditional hierarchical organizations,
Right.
what we call Theory X companies.
Yeah.
He saw firsthand how these structures can stifle creativity
Right.
and actually demotivate employees.
Okay, so let's unpack this Theory X
Okay.
a little bit. What are the core assumptions that Townsend thinks are holding businesses back?
So Townsend argues that Theory X is based on the idea that most people dislike work
Okay.
and need to be constantly monitored and controlled.
Right.
It's a management style built on the assumption that employees are primarily motivated by fear of punishment and the desire for security, that they lack the ambition or desire to take initiative.
That sounds incredibly demoralizing.
Yeah.
It's like if you treat people like they're lazy
Exactly.
and irresponsible, then they're going to act accordingly.
That's precisely his point.
Yeah.
He saw this office boy mentality,
Yeah.
as he called it, perpetuated in so many large organizations.
Right.
And he believed that it created a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
It led to excessive bureaucracy,
Right.
micromanagement,
Yeah.
and ultimately a workforce that's disengaged and unproductive.
So what did he propose as an alternative?
Well, he championed what he calls Theory Y,
Okay.
a much more optimistic.
And frankly, humane approach to management.
Correct.
Townsend believed that people can actually find satisfaction and fulfillment in their work
Okay.
when given the right environment and opportunities.
What are the key principles behind Theory Y?
Sure.
What makes it so different from that traditional command and control style?
Okay, so instead of assuming that people hate work,
Right.
Theory Y recognizes that work can actually be a source of motivation
Okay.
and even joy
Interesting.
when it aligns with a person's inherent desire to learn, grow, and achieve.
Yeah.
It taps into what he calls
Okay.
intrinsic motivation,
Oh, interesting.
which is far more powerful than relying solely on external rewards or punishments.
So it's about creating an environment where people feel valued and trusted
Yes.
and empowered to contribute their best.
Precisely.
But Townsend doesn't stop at simply suggesting a new mindset, right?
No.
I mean, the book is full of
Not at all.
some
Yeah.
pretty radical,
Yeah.
specific recommendations. Oh, absolutely. He gets very specific.
Yeah.
And sometimes those specifics are delivered with a pretty sharp wit.
Yeah.
Like, for example, he famously advocates for firing the entire personnel department.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Getting rid of HR altogether?
Yes.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It goes back to his core belief that traditional HR departments
Right.
often become part of the very bureaucracy that he's trying to dismantle.
Yeah.
He felt that they focused too much on rules and regulations and paperwork
Yeah.
instead of truly supporting and empowering employees.
Interesting. So instead of a personnel department, he's proposing like a people department
Right. A people
focused on creating a more humane and supportive work environment.
Exactly.
I'm really curious to hear what he envisions for this people department.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I have to ask about some of his other eye-catching recommendations.
Yeah.
He also suggests abolishing the public relations department.
Right, and that might seem a little counterintuitive at first,
Yeah.
but Townsend believed that good products and services
Yeah.
should speak for themselves.
Right.
He saw traditional PR as often very superficial and focused on spinning a positive image
Right.
rather than addressing
Yeah.
the underlying issues.
So instead of hiring a PR firm to craft fancy press releases,
Right.
he'd rather invest in improving
Exactly.
the actual
Yeah.
customer experience.
Exactly.
And he felt the same way about what he called management consultants.
Yes.
He had a particular dislike for them
He really didn't like management consultants.
because he felt that they often swoop in,
Yes.
offer generic solutions,
Yeah.
and then disappear without truly understanding the business
Right.
or its people.
Yeah, he was very critical.
There's a real theme emerging here
Yeah.
about cutting through the noise
Yeah.
and focusing on what truly matters.
Absolutely.
It makes me think about his chapter on keeping investors informed.
Yeah.
He advocates for a very different approach than the typical glossy investor presentations, right?
Absolutely. He believed in radical transparency with investors.
Okay.
Instead of sugarcoating things, he suggested providing them with detailed, unvarnished reports
Oh, wow.
that give a true picture of the company's performance, good or bad.
So just being totally upfront
Totally upfront.
about,
He felt that honesty and openness were the best way to build trust.
yeah.
And ultimately, that trust would lead to long-term success.
It's interesting how this emphasis on authenticity and transparency
Yes.
seems to connect to so many of his ideas, from HR
Yeah.
to PR to investor relations.
Yeah, it's a common thread.
There's a consistent thread of cutting through the BS
Yeah.
and getting to the heart of the matter.
Absolutely.
And that thread runs right through his approach to leadership,
It does.
which is another area where he had
Yeah.
some pretty unconventional ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into that. What did Townsend have to say about leadership that was so different from the prevailing wisdom of the time?
Well, he had a very different perspective from the traditional command and control style.
Right.
In fact, he believed that true leaders, quote, walk behind their people.
Interesting.
A quote he borrows from Lao Tzu.
Okay.
So he believed a good leader serves as a coach
Mm-hmm.
and facilitator,
Right.
empowering their team
Yeah.
rather than dictating to them.
So less about giving orders from on high
Exactly.
and more about
Yeah.
creating an environment where the
Yeah.
team can flourish.
Precisely. He believed that leaders should trust their employees
Right.
to make decisions
Mm-hmm.
and take ownership.
A great example of this is his advice to abolish the executive dining room
Yes.
and get rid of reserved parking spaces
Yes.
for executives.
Yes. He saw those perks as creating unnecessary divisions
Yeah.
and reinforcing a hierarchy.
Instead of isolating themselves.
Exactly.
He felt leaders should be more approachable,
It's accessible.
working alongside their team.
Exactly. And it's all connected, right?
Yes.
His advice to fire the personnel department
Right.
wasn't about getting rid of people.
Right.
It was about getting rid of.
It was about getting rid of a system that
Yeah.
he felt dehumanized employees.
Yeah.
So instead, he envisioned a people department that focused on genuinely supporting and developing employees.
So what would that look like in practice?
Right.
It's easy to say.
It's easy to say get rid of HR, but what would you put in its place?
Yeah.
He didn't lay out a detailed blueprint,
Yeah.
but he emphasized the importance of treating employees like individuals,
Okay.
not cogs in a machine.
Mm.
And he envisioned a department that focused on fostering a sense of community,
Right.
providing opportunities for growth and development,
Mm-hmm.
and addressing employee concerns in a more humane and empathetic way.
It sounds like a pretty radical shift
It is.
from the traditional HR model.
It is a pretty dramatic shift. Did he provide any real-world examples
He did.
of how this could work?
He often referred to his own experience at Avis.
Okay.
He talked about how he instituted regular meetings with employees from all levels of the organization,
Right.
actually listening to their concerns and ideas.
Hmm.
This wasn't just like a symbolic gesture.
Right.
He truly valued their input
Yeah.
and used it to make decisions.
So he wasn't just paying lip service
Oh, no.
to the idea of employee empowerment.
No, he really believed in it.
Yeah.
He actually put it into practice.
And he saw the results firsthand.
He did.
By giving employees more ownership and autonomy.
Yeah.
He witnessed a dramatic improvement in customer service, employee morale, and ultimately the company's bottom line.
Absolutely.
It sounds like a pretty compelling case for theory Y in action.
It is.
What about some of his other unconventional suggestions? You mentioned his dislike of management consultants earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Townsend felt that companies often jump to hire consultants before thoroughly understanding their own problems
Oh, yeah.
or exploring potential solutions internally.
Yeah.
And he had a rather provocative way of describing this.
Okay.
He referred to this as premature ejaculation in decision-making,
Wow.
a rather graphic metaphor.
Yeah.
Essentially, he believed that rushing into solutions
Okay.
without proper analysis and internal reflection
Mhm.
was just a recipe for wasted time and money.
So he was advocating for a more deliberate
Yes.
and thoughtful approach to problem solving,
Yeah.
one that involved employees at all levels.
Yes, he felt that companies often overlook the expertise and insights of
Yeah,
their own employees,
yeah.
who are often closest to the problems
Yeah.
and have valuable perspectives to offer.
That makes me think about his strong stance against relying too heavily on public relations.
Yeah.
It sounds like he believed that genuine actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. He believed that companies should focus on delivering real value to their customers,
Right.
which in turn would generate positive word of mouth and attract investors. He felt that contrived PR campaigns were often very transparent and ultimately ineffective.
It all comes back to that theme of authenticity, doesn't it?
It does.
Being true to your values, both internally
Yeah.
and externally.
It seems like that was really at the heart of Townsend's philosophy.
It was. He also emphasized the importance of clear, concise communication.
Oh, yes.
He felt that too many organizations get bogged down in jargon,
Yeah.
bureaucratic language,
Yeah.
which hinders effective communication and decision-making.
Exactly.
So cut the fluff, get to the point,
Get to the point.
make sure everyone understands
Maybe
what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He advocated for using plain language and avoiding unnecessary complexity.
And that extended to his views on leadership.
Yes.
He believed that leaders should be clear and direct
Yes.
in their communication,
Yes.
providing clear expectations
Mm-hmm.
and feedback.
It ties back to that idea of walking behind your people,
Right.
right? Providing guidance and support,
Yeah.
not issuing commands from a distance.
Yeah.
He also felt strongly that leaders should be accessible
Right.
and available to their teams,
Right.
advocated for having an open door policy,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to listen to concerns and suggestions from employees at all levels.
Yeah. That can be a challenge for leaders who are used to operating in a more hierarchical structure.
It is a challenge.
It requires a willingness to let go of some control
It does.
and trust their team.
He believed that this trust is essential for creating a truly empowered
Right.
and motivated workforce.
Yeah.
And he also felt that leaders should be willing to shield their team from unnecessary bureaucracy and distractions,
Yep.
allowing them to focus on the work that truly matters.
It sounds like he was advocating for a more humane
Yes.
and less bureaucratic approach to leadership.
He was,
One that prioritizes the well-being
yeah.
and development of the people
Yes.
within the organization.
He was. And he believed that this approach ultimately leads to greater innovation,
Yeah.
productivity, and overall success.
This is all giving me a lot to think about in terms of my own leadership style.
Yeah, me too.
But before we delve deeper into that,
Okay.
I'm curious about his thoughts on compensation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had some pretty unconventional ideas about how to motivate employees beyond just a paycheck, right?
He did. He was a strong advocate for profit sharing
Okay.
and incentive compensation, but with
Yeah.
a specific twist
Okay.
that set him apart from the traditional corporate approach.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What was his take on these systems?
He believed that these systems should be structured in a way that fosters a true sense of partnership
Hmm?
and shared ownership.
Yeah,
He didn't see bonuses as a way to dangle a carrot in front of employees.
right,
He saw them as a way to acknowledge their contribution
right.
to the company's success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And provide a tangible reward for that contribution.
So it's not just about individual performance.
Right.
It's about recognizing the collective effort
It's about the collective.
that goes into achieving success.
Exactly.
He believed that everyone who contributes to the company's success
Yeah.
should share in the rewards.
Should share in the rewards.
And he was very specific about how these systems should be designed.
It was.
So what were some of his key principles
Yeah.
for creating an effective profit sharing
Yeah.
and incentive compensation system?
First, he believed these systems should be directly tied to performance.
Okay.
Employees should see a clear connection between their efforts and the rewards they receive.
Yeah.
No arbitrary bonuses or executive perks that seem disconnected from the company's overall success.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So everyone understands how their work contributes to the bigger picture.
right.
What else?
He also advocated for a system that was simple and transparent,
Right.
easy for everyone to understand.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He believed there should be no ceilings on bonuses.
No ceilings. So theoretically, an entry-level employee could earn a significant bonus
Yes.
if the company performed exceptionally well.
That was the idea.
Wow.
He wanted to create a system that truly incentivized everyone
Yeah,
to work together toward a common goal.
right.
A system where everyone could benefit from the company's success,
Mm-hmm.
not just those at the top.
Which is, again, a stark contrast to the traditional corporate approach,
Yeah.
where bonuses are often concentrated at the executive level.
Right.
And I'm remembering his chapter on the president's salary.
Yeah.
Didn't he argue against excessive executive compensation?
He did. He felt that huge disparities in pay created a very damaging gap
Right.
between those at the top
Yeah.
and everyone else. It
Yeah.
breeds resentment and demotivation when employees see their leaders reaping huge rewards
Right.
while they're struggling to make ends meet.
It all comes back to that core value of fairness, which seems to permeate so much of his thinking.
Absolutely. He believed that a fair and equitable compensation system was essential
Yeah.
for creating a truly motivated and engaged workforce.
It's refreshing to hear someone advocate so passionately
Yeah.
for a more equitable approach to business,
Yeah.
especially someone who achieves so much success within the traditional corporate world.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to wonder, how practical are these ideas in today's context? Could a modern company realistically implement Townsend's vision of profit sharing and incentive compensation?
It's certainly a challenge.
Yeah.
There's traditional corporate structures and compensation models that
Yeah.
are deeply ingrained, and there can be a lot of resistance to change.
Right.
But we are seeing some encouraging trends.
Okay.
More companies are experimenting with employee ownership models
Wow.
and exploring different ways to share profits with their employees.
Like, for example, those companies that are offering stock options to all employees
Exactly.
or implementing profit sharing plans
Yeah.
that extend beyond the executive level.
Exactly. And with the rise of remote work and the gig economy,
Right.
we're seeing a shift away from those traditional employment models altogether.
Yeah.
And this creates new opportunities to think outside the box when it comes to compensation
Right.
and design systems that are more aligned with the needs of both companies and workers.
It sounds like Townsend's ideas, while radical for their time,
Yeah,
might actually be even more relevant now
I think so.
than they were decades ago.
I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
His core principles of fairness, transparency,
Yeah.
and shared ownership.
They're timeless.
Yeah.
They can serve as guiding principles for leaders who are trying to create more equitable and fulfilling workplaces,
Right.
regardless of the industry or the specific challenges they face.
Speaking of guiding principles,
Yeah.
as we wrap up this deep dive into Up the Organization,
Yeah.
what do you think is the book's most enduring legacy? What's the one thing that you hope listeners will take away from our conversation?
For me, it's Townsend's unwavering belief
Yeah.
in the power of people.
Yeah.
He believed that when you create an environment built on trust and respect and shared ownership,
Right.
that you unleash incredible potential.
Mm-hmm.
He challenges us to rethink our assumptions about work and leadership.
Yeah.
And he reminds us that it's possible to be both successful and humane
Yeah.
in our approach to business.
And he does it with such a sharp wit
He does.
and irreverent style.
Absolutely.
It's not every management book that can make you laugh out loud,
That's true.
while simultaneously prompting you to rethink your entire approach to leadership.
Absolutely.
He was a true original,
He was.
and his ideas continue to resonate with leaders who are looking for a more human-centered way to achieve success.
I agree.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
This has been such a fascinating and insightful exploration of Robert Townsend's Up the Organization.
It has.
It's a book that's full of wisdom and humor and a powerful message about the importance of putting people first.
And I'd encourage anyone listening who hasn't read it
Yeah.
to pick up a copy.
Yeah.
Even if some of his ideas might seem a bit out there, the
Yeah.
underlying principles are as relevant today
Yeah.
as they were when the book was first published.
And as you're reading,
Yeah.
think about how Townsend's ideas could be applied to your own work and leadership challenges.
Right.
I mean, how would he approach the complexities of our modern world?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What would he have to say about remote work, artificial intelligence, and the rapidly evolving nature of work itself?
Those are great questions to ponder.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the power of his ideas that they continue to spark such thought-provoking questions,
Yeah.
even decades later.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope it's done the same for you.
I think so.
So thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of Robert Townsend. And until next time,
Okay.
keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.